everyone, welcome back to the Blind Press YouTube channel, and finally, my review of Don't Breathe 2. Sorry it took so long, but we are here to review this movie, and I actually quite enjoyed it. I usually don't say that about sequels. I'm going to say that this is definitely not as good as the first movie, but it is definitely not as bad as a lot of other movie reviewers that I've watched review this movie say. I think they're focused on the wrong thing, and that taints their experience of this movie. And we'll get into that later on in this video. I'm going to try to summarize it as briefly as I can, and then get into why I think that the reviewers may be focused on the wrong thing here. So this movie is written and produced and directed by the same people who did the first one, Ghost House Productions. And we have it takes place 8 years later than the first movie. We do not have any returning characters except for the blind man and Raoul, one of the bad guys. But he's basically is, you know, kind of a throwaway character, really. But this starts with a survival training session between the old man and a little girl. So it seems that he has, since the first movie, acquired a daughter. And he is teaching her how to do survival drills with Shadow the Rottweiler from the first movie. He is still here, and we have the blind man, whose name is Norman Langstrom, I've discovered. And his daughter Phoenix. And we start this movie with this drill, and then we go into a trip to town with Phoenix and a help delivery person that helps the blind man deliver the plants and ferns that he is growing in his greenhouse, which I guess is where he gets his income. And she also brings back, you know, canned goods and stuff whenever Phoenix goes to town. He also homeschools Phoenix, and she knows Braille, even though she can see. So she produces her lessons for him in Braille so that he can check them for her. But she can still read. So she can still read print. So that is a thing. We get to town where we see a news broadcast that tells us there are some bad organ harvesting people around, helped by an actual doctor, and they are all wanted for kidnapping and killing people by doing like live organ harvesting. Creepy. Very, very creepy. We then switch to Phoenix visiting her mother, or her mother's, I guess, grave site, because the story is that she was in a house fire. That's why there are no pictures of her mother, and that her father, the blind man, was able to only rescue her. And Hernandez, the delivery driver, takes her back to the burnt out house, and she's been building like a little shrine there in memory of the dead mom. And then we have a quick bathroom trip before we head back to the house. This is important because a creepy man named Raylan decides, I'm going to head into the girls' bathroom and talk to this 12-year-old girl. Raylan is another important person that you need to know about in this movie. So, after he introduces himself creepily to Phoenix and she gets Shadow into the bathroom and tells him he could rip his testicles off just at one command from her, she tells the blind man, hey, I want to go to a real school with real people in it. I'm lonely. And he says, you don't know what it is to be alone. You have me. To which she says, you're not enough. Which is showing that she's growing up. She wants social interaction naturally. And he is very paranoid. He said, I've already lost a daughter. I can't lose you. So that's very paranoid. You know, he's hearkening back to losing his first daughter in the car crash in the first movie. And this is something that he's terrified. He can't let her go. We switch now to the main thrust of the movie, the burglary and the kidnapping of Phoenix. So we have three guys are set off to establish or to accomplish this task. And they first do this by shooting the dog so that he is no longer a threat. The last burglars from the last movie just poisoned or knocked him out with sleeping drugs. That didn't work too well for them. These ones kill the dog. Poor doggy. And they get into the house as the blind man is trying to figure out why Shadow is not coming for dinner and going outside to see where he is. This now ensues a chase between, like a silent chase of hide and seek between Phoenix and the two of the three men who have come inside the house together. And this ends with blind man somehow coming through the window, grabbing one of the guys. One of the guys apparently has a favorite hammer that he does all of his assaulting with because he comes with this hammer already in his belt, and he pulls it out and buries the claw end into blind man's arm. So they are going about tussling and all this stuff. Blind man gets away, tells Phoenix to get to the basement. She gets to the basement but gets knocked down the stairs, and is semi-conscious and crawls into a shipping container type box. Now we have blind man super gluing his arm shut, and him being found by one of the intruders. So we have a little bit of a tussle, and then the other intruder comes in to find his brother in arms with his mouth and nose super glued shut. Gee, I wonder how that happened. So these criminals are morons, man. Instead of taking a tool and poking the lips like where the glue is, no. Through the cheek with a flathead screwdriver. This movie is straight up torture porn. I swear to God. This is like, you think the last movie was bad. This is, I watched the kill count on this. 11 people died in this movie versus I think it was 4 that died in the last one. So we have almost triple the body count. And this movie is like, how many sharp things can we use to hurt people? That's what this movie is. So we've got a hammer. Now we have a flathead screwdriver trying to make a breathing hole through the cheek. I don't know how the frig that works, but okay. And it just goes on like this. Phoenix is now hiding in the box. We have we've been moved down into the basement for the battle for Phoenix, and we now have the third man who was on the outside of the house. He has joined the fray, and he is now feeding a hose through the top of the shipping container vent. Like there's like an air vent in the shipping container, and he is feeding a hose through the top of that and running water through it because he's figured out Phoenix is in there. And he's doing that to try to get the blind man to come out into the open because he's figured out the blind man is down there with him. And he's then also puts a fraying live wire in the tank and is basically like, the water's going to reach that wire, let's go. And blind man has been pretty badly beaten up at this point between this dude he's with the wire, the guy who he super glued his face shut. They had a tussle. Hammer man, he's buried his hammer in his arm. Like, blind man is getting the crap kicked out of him in this movie. He's also he is giving as good as he's getting, but he is getting very badly beaten up in this movie. He eventually manages to turn off the hose, but in the tussle, the hose gets turned back on, and he almost, he's semi-conscious, manages to pull the live wire out just in time, and he has already, previously has thrown some leaking propane tanks around, and he's listening for one of those and throws the live wire at it and causes an explosion, blows up asshole dude who flooded the tank. Gets Phoenix out, gets all the water out of her lungs, and they try to escape into the greenhouse. Raylan has now been called in, so we now know that Raylan is in charge of this group of people, and he wants Phoenix. But we do not know why until we get to the greenhouse, and Raylan says, this is all a big misunderstanding. And he's talking to Phoenix, and he's saying, this is, I want to talk to you, I don't know what he's told you, meaning the blind man, but the man standing beside you, I know what he's not, he's not your father. And this enrages the blind man, enrages him, and he just, out of the plants he goes, and another battle ensues where everybody gets the absolute shit kicked out of them. And then blind man, disappears, and Raylan tells Phoenix that when she was about 4, there was a house fire, and he was accused and sent to prison for cooking meth in the basement and causing the fire. So it was like a chemical fire. And we see in like a flashback, we see the blind man rescuing her as she, him and Shadow are walking, and he finds her, and he just takes her home. And we see that he's watching the news broadcast that announces the arrest of Raylan, the meth house fire, all of that. So we see that almost like a stray animal, Norman has found Phoenix and taken her in. So this story is told to her, and Raylan gives one of his goons instructions: take her to the truck, I'm gonna go hunt this fucker, right? And he gets out a cooler of Molotov cocktails and his pit bull, and they go and he sends the pit bull in to look for the blind man as he, gives him a jacket to smell. And then, without waiting for the dog to come out with the blind man, he just starts throwing Molotov cocktails into the into the house. And this is, you think, shit, this is it. Blind man is dead. This is it for him, right? But we're only an hour into the movie, and there's still half an hour, 45 minutes left. So what's going to happen next, you wonder? Well, We cut to Phoenix waking up in this abandoned hotel, and Raylan is there, and, she's a little bit freaked out, obviously. But he tells her real name is Tara. She was born on February 20th. And that was a big sticking point with her, with the blind man, when this, was first revealed to her. She screams at him, "What's my real name? What's my real birthday?" And she's yelling at him, like, during this big fight, right? So, he tells her all of this, and she still says, I just want to get out of here. There's a child's shelter. I want to go to that, and I just don't really want anything to do with any of you. So she tries to leave, and just as she's leaving, and as she's going down the stairs, we have creepy doctor from the news broadcast in the shadows, just watching. And just as she's about to leave, she hears a song that she can remember from her childhood, and she thinks her mother used to sing to her. And all of a sudden, this woman in a wheelchair comes out of the shadows, and it's really well done. Like, the lady who performs and acts her mother is great, just great. So she comes into view, and Phoenix realizes this is her mom. They have a reunion, and then, Tara/Phoenix's mom, Josephine, starts to tell her about how they had a kitchen in their house where they used to cook for their business. And that's a line-for-line quote. And apparently the fire burned her lungs and, damaged her heart. And she needs a new heart. A compatible, perfect match. Meaning a familial match, like a child. So we then go from just torture porn to, oh my god, we're going to cut out the heart of a child. So now we switch back to the house fire. Blind man somehow is still alive. He's obviously been burned. He's bloody and he's hurting, but he's still alive. And the dog is still there. Now, of course, at first he's like, "Fuck you, dog. I don't want you around me. Go away." But he, wanders to a nearby overpass, discovers Hernandez's delivery van, and discovers that just before they came to the house for Phoenix, the group has also done in with Hernandez. She has been killed, but he discovers some things in the van that he can use. He finds 2 pendants. He keeps one. He attaches one to the dog's collar. He goes into the trunk of the van. He finds a machete and like one of those straps you would use for securing a delivery load, and some other like plant fumigator and stuff like that. And so he attaches the strap to the dog's collar, and tells the dog, "Go home. Go home." And he has like an improvised cane. And he's just walking with this dog, telling it, "Go home. Go home." And it takes him home. It takes him right to Raylan and to everybody. And here is the most chilling scene. We're in the medical, like this makeshift medical area in the hotel. And Phoenix is awake but drugged. So they've obviously used something like succinylcholine or something like that. And the doctor tells Raylan she has to be breathing, she has to be alive, or else the heart's no good. And at this point, Josephine, there's a really creepy, she goes, hey, 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 hey. And then she mouths, thank you, at her daughter. It's like, oh my god, you creepy fucking woman. And so we have the bone saw inches from Phoenix's chest. And then the power goes down. So we have to investigate. And we send Raul and 2 other guys to go investigate. And the blind man is, we've got one guy going in. He sees some rats. Then he thinks, okay, he's chewed the they've chewed the wires. He goes, nothing's chewed up. So he goes and turns on the circuit breaker, and Blind Man attacks him. They have a big fight. Blind Man gets, I think he gets shot at this point, but he's still fighting, and he chops all of the cables in half with his machete, and then he shoves the other pendant that he kept in his pocket down Buddy's throat. And so when Buddy moves and tries to come at him, and he's choking and gagging on this tinkling pendant, this is also Hammerman, by the way, who has come to turn the circuit back on, and he's dropped his hammer. So when he comes for Blind Man, choking and tinkling, Blind Man throws the hammer at his head and connects. And down goes Hammerman. So now Raul and his goonies come and look for what's going on, and we see Blind Man lying in a pool of water. Looks like he's dead. Raul's not fooled, so he sends his goons in, and Blind Man feels the ripples and just empties his gun into everybody. Just kills everybody. At this point, Raul's like, fuck this. I don't like what they're doing to that girl up there. And he tells the Blind Man, they're gonna kill her. I think that's wrong. Here's where they're going. Blind Man's like, okay, cool, thank you. Doesn't kill him. He leaves. Throwdown of the movie. We get to the hotel pool area. The doctor has said, screw this, I'm gone. And he has had his throat slashed by the Blind Man. We now have Josephine, Raylan, Phoenix, and Blind Man all in the hotel pool. There is a ginormous throwdown where Blind Man uses the plant diffuser to create like a smoke bomb and blinds everybody that way so that they are on the same terms. Raylan accidentally shoots Josephine because he thinks it's Blind Man, and he has killed his wife, who is the meth cook, who is the reason for the organ harvesting and all of this craziness. So he has just destroyed his business. Good job, Raylan. Josephine has Phoenix handcuffed to her arm, so her body and wheelchair are going towards the pool edge, and Phoenix is like holding on for dear life with her legs to try onto a diving board ladder to try not to fall in. This point, she's like, fuck this, I don't want to fall in, and she hacks off her mom's arm with a machete, the one that's handcuffed to her. But gravity is gravity, and she ends up falling in. Anyway, Blind Man and Raylan are just kicking the crap out of each other, and at this point, Blind Man gets a hold of Raylan in Raylan's head, and we have a good old-fashioned finger enucleation, which is absolutely awesome if you are a horror movie gore buff like I am, but also incredibly painful to listen to / see if you are watching it. Anyway, this happens, and Raylan is presumed dead, and Phoenix is climbing out of the pool at this point, and Blind Man tells her, look, like, everything he said is true. I've killed, I've raped, meaning, the insemination thing with the turkey baster. And probably some stuff in Iraq. Maybe he did some stuff there when he was fighting. I don't know, but we don't know that. We can only presume that he just meant in Don't Breathe in the first movie. He says, go. Just go. And he scares her because he yells it. And she drops the machete and she backs away. And out of nowhere, Raylan stabs him in the back and goes to slit his, like he's feeling around for his throat to slit it. And Phoenix just tomahawks him in the chest with the machete. So, bye-bye, Raylan. Raylan's dead. Into the pool he goes. And Phoenix is trying to, I can save you to the blind man. The blind man says, you already have. And he dies. And this is really a sad moment here, because and horror movies don't usually make me sad, but this did. And here's where I want to address a lot of what the other reviewers have said, because they felt like this was a redemption arc for somebody who really did some really horrific things to the drunk driver who killed his daughter in the last movie. He did. He had a torture dungeon. He was trying to impregnate her with a turkey baster. And that was pretty grim. And I think that a lot of people feel like this story where he's trying to rescue this surrogate daughter, they feel like this is trying to redeem him. I disagree. I think that the better a character is, the more complicated they are. I think that Norman Langstrom is an incredibly complicated and incredibly damaged character. I think he had no chance after he got blinded in Iraq and was suffering with the debilitating PTSD. He was probably doing all right. He probably, judging from the movies, he got independent living services. He learned Braille. He, he kept survival training up. He learned how to do that while blind. But then he lost his daughter, like his biological daughter. And he snapped. And I defy any of us to predict how we would behave if we were dealt that deck of cards. I'm not saying what he did was right at all. What I'm saying is, because I've heard the words serial killer and serial rapist thrown around in the reviews. And first, let's address the serial killer thing. You are a serial killer if you plan to murder 3 or more people. And you have a specific signature, a specific MO, all that shit. Okay? The only checkbox that he gets from the first movie is the number of people he killed. The only reason he killed them was because they broke into his house. He didn't go out and hunt them down. He didn't, like... And here's for the serial rapist part. I might be able to give you more... I might give you that because maybe he used the turkey baster more than once. But serial rape is more than one rape victim. Not raping one victim more than once. It's difficult. It's disgusting to talk about. And it's fucked up. But that's not what he is. He's an incredibly fucked up man who absolutely, if he had not died at the end of this movie, should have been institutionalized. Whether that be in the medical ward of a prison or a mental hospital for the criminally insane, I don't know. But he definitely should have been institutionalized. However, serial killers / serial rapists do not tend to completely stop doing what they're doing when just out of nowhere. And there has been no indication that he was that kind of person before the break-in in the first movie. There was indications that he was suffering from post-traumatic stress, but there was no indication that he was a, sadistic psychopath before then. And would somebody who was a sadistic psychopath take pity on a child escaping a house fire, take them home, see the news broadcast, learn why that house was on fire, and then try to do his best to raise her? Did he raise her in a damaged, fucked up way? Yeah. Did he love her? Absolutely. Would he have done anything for her to keep her safe? Yeah, in his own perverse way? Yeah. This man is not the evil through and through psychopath that people are saying he is. He is incredibly damaged, and he is incredibly fucked up, and he definitely should, if he had not died, should have been institutionalized. But to say that he is as evil as the people who wanted to harvest live organs to keep a meth lab going, or the people who just break into people's houses to steal money so that they can get out of that city instead of, getting an actual job and saving up your money and leaving that way. Rocky still managed to keep all of the cash that she stole from Norman. I love how the people who displayed absolutely no morals at all are the people who have nothing wrong with them. And the person who, as damaged and fucked up and twisted as his moral compass became, still tried to do what he thought was the right thing. And I love how all the reviewers that I've seen review this movie are calling the blind guy pure evil and pure psychopathy. But the able-bodied people who were going to kill a child to keep a meth lab going, they're just sort of bad. And it's annoying that they're there because it makes the blind man look better. Fucking what? Are we that messed up in society where we can't look at a damaged person, acknowledge what they've done is super wrong, and then look at somebody else and go, and then you over there, you're fucking evil? Is that where we are in society now? Because that's kind of messed up. Where we cannot be on those two planes of existence at the same time. That bothers me a bit. And I hope that anybody that watches this movie after watching this review kind of takes a look at this movie from that lens and understands that, yes, Norman Langstrom became a monster. He became a monster, absolutely. when he said, I am a monster. I have killed. I have raped. Yeah. Yeah. He by that point, he was a monster. But the people who are willing to harvest organs to keep a meth cook alive, there is no I became a monster from that point. You had to be some sort of fucked up at the beginning of your life to get to a point where you're like, yeah, business is business. Gotta chop up them bodies to keep my cook going. Like, what? What the fuck? And to have reviewers not see that, not be able to process those two thoughts, those two abstract and different thoughts at the same time, that's kind of disturbing to me. And it kind of makes me wonder about how we are in society at this point, where we can not have these two thoughts coexisting at the same time, and yet we claim to want better mental health understanding. Okay, sure. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. This has been my review for Don't Breathe 2 2021. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope if you do watch this movie that you watch it with what I've said in mind. I will also link my original Don't Breathe 2016 review in the description below. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.